So today I wanted to actually discuss a little bit about, of course, that legend Bloodhound, and why actually he really is meta within the current game cycle as it is. My name's Rattler44, of course. Welcome back. I hope you're all having a great day in this absolutely boiling heat. Well, it is here anyway. But yeah, I mean, I wanted to just sort of go through it a little bit more in depth because, like anything with this particular legend, I have done a couple of other previous videos, overviews, pros and cons, things like that, but I've never really done a fully in-depth video about this legend, so I just wanted to cover a little bit more after playing with him a lot more in Season 5, which I hadn't done maybe as much previously. But before we get into it, do remember to never stop moving, never stop believing, and stay Apex. Let's get into the video. So straight away in the background you can see that you can do a Bloodhound scan, and this really kind of helps out in showing where enemies are and giving your team information. Yes, it helps if you've got a pre-made team who know exactly what they're doing and are able to coordinate along with yourself, but even with randoms you can still give your team information and you can give a bit of a heads up. Is it good to push? Is there 8 people in that building? All those good things. And, you know, he's viable in things like competitive, ranked, non-competitive play, all those things. He has become much more viable. And the reason is because, one, they've made the scan range. They just kept on buffing it, and now it shows in real time. Which is really, really strong. So you're not only now getting exactly the positions, like if they're crouched above on a box, if they're hidden in the corner, if one is like down, you know, because sometimes you will see that there's a legend that's down and there's only 2, so you know it's a 3-on-2 fight. All these things are very, very important. Now, I will say with the scan, the only thing that I would like to see changed in this regard for Season 6 would be the consistency of how the scan works, and that is in regards to when you do scan in either in Beast of the Hunt mode or just in general, sometimes it doesn't actually show you the position of the legends. Now, maybe that's just me, maybe that's something only I've come across, but I doubt it. I have a feeling that, you know, as much as this game is very great in a lot of ways, there are still, unfortunately, a lot of bugs and silly little glitches that people just overlook because it's inconsistent. It doesn't happen all the time. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever played Bloodhound and had that problem where you scan and you're still none the wiser as to where they are. It doesn't show up. It's very frustrating when that happens, and like I say, it doesn't happen all the time, but I'd love to see that fixed. But apart from that, the scan can stay exactly as it is. I don't think it's you know, ridiculous in comparison to some characters, but I do feel it's very, very strong, and I really do think that that is partly the reason why it's lifted Bloodhound up from being quite lower tier, you know, quite average. People putting him as B tier and things like that. I mean, I said before that in one of my ranking videos that he was borderline kind of between A and S tier, and I still feel like that. I mean, it's like anything. How do you rate every legend, you know, in regards to the game? It's hard, but he's a very viable character. You've got lots and lots of good things about what he can do, and he's very, very strong in ranks, and he can really provide a lot of benefits to the team to kind of help you in basically not getting yourself killed, which is really nice. Now, I will say that with regards to the scan, you know, it's definitely a nice sort of feature. Once the consistency is fixed, I think that that will really be a very, very strong thing. Now, I did talk about the passive previously before in another video, but just to cover that, the passive is really handy. I do like the aspect that you get the footprints. It's not amazing, it's not like a really amazing passive, and sometimes from a distance you're going to struggle, but, you know, like with tracking this enemy, as you can see there, I can track where he is, and of course I can straight from side to side and down him, of course, using the tracks. Now the tracks here, you can see this now, you can see the red of the arm, of course, it means that it's going to be a lot easier to track where the enemy has gone, which in this case I'm able to do. So I'm able to tell my friend Viper, yep, he's over there, let's go and push. It seems to be only one person, which actually it did turn out to be 2, but you know, that is in duos somewhat expected, but in smaller teams it's not going to be so hectic. But yeah, you get the redder footprints, you can track on it. The only thing I will say with it is that sometimes from a range you can't always see the footprints, and it can mean that you can still lose track of a legend. it does depend. But you can see there, I'm able to track the legend. I'm able to use Beast of the Hunt, of course, which is amazing, and I'll go into that in a minute. But, you know, of course, I'm able to get the down quite easily with the Hemlock. He didn't even know what was happening. And this is what I mean. I'm able to scan. I couldn't see anything. Could you? Is that just me? Am I being blind? I couldn't see anything, and that's a prime example, going back to the scan, of what I often get. That does need to be fixed. But that's just a quality of life fix. It's not a buff, it's not a nerf, it's just that should be working as it is. Now, the other legend, his teammate picks out. I do a lot of damage. Viper gets the final hit and the kill, but they're both dead. So absolutely fantastic. Now, one of the things that I will mention then with Bloodhound actually is how good his finisher is. Now, this was something that actually JHD pointed out, and I've already thought it myself, but it was just something he also observed in a particular game. It seems to me like he has a slightly faster animation in regards to the finisher. Now, as you can see here, this is risky. I'm asking Viper to cover me while we fight, and I do a finisher. But by the time that the Wraith has jumped up and everything, yes, he did down Viper there, but I pulled off a finisher, and I've gained shield back. That is really, really good. Now, obviously, you've got to have that finisher, and if you don't, well, that's not going to be so handy necessarily, but it is a really useful thing in regards to having that aspect as well, because it's really quick. I don't know whether it's quicker than every other finisher, but to me, some finishers just seem really, really slow, and then other finishers seem really quick. And Bloodhound is really fast, so, you know, in regards to getting shield back and things like that, yeah, it's risky at certain times. You've got to obviously be calculated in when you kind of do it, but it is really, really handy. Now, again, you can see the scan. It does that time show me exactly where someone is, and I'm able to finish one of them off. Lovely. So again, he's a really, really viable character for all these different type reasons. He's useful to the team. He's able to provide lots of good benefits. And I'd say that he's a very strong character. Now, I'm going to talk about him in ranked as well, which is what the footage is showing below, and I'll get into that in just a sec. Okay, so with this one, I had unfortunately been downed earlier in the ranked match, and luckily one of my friends managed to get me up via a portable or mobile respawn beacon. Very handy. But yeah, I mean, like, so basically there's explosions going around. Luckily there's some death boxes that I'm going to go and grab. But going back to Bloodhound, I mean, he is very, very useful in regards to telling people pretty much what the situation is, and kind of giving players like JHD enough intel to know whether he should push or whether he should, you know, stay back. Viper is a lot more of a more passive type player, so there's not so much worry about him pushing it by himself into buildings necessarily, although we've all done it. Think that we can get a kill, and we haven't. So he's very handy in that regard. Also, he is good for players, I would say, like myself and other players as well, that sometimes don't know how bad the situation is. So in regards to sort of like pushing and things like that, I can scan and say there's 2 hostiles. We now know that there of course is you know, like at least 1 hostile left. Now I push for the revive whilst of course JHD is shooting, and that is something that I'm able to do because we now know that there's only 1 person, and that Gibraltar is going to be worried more about kind of actually surviving and not being killed and things like that. So we know that it's safe to get the revive, and of course you can use the rocks for cover and things like that. You can see I nearly did die there though. But Beast of the Hunt obviously as well, you know, very, very handy in certain scenarios. Now I've said in previous videos that I'd like to see it be a bit quieter, but actually I do think that that probably would be a little bit overpowered. So I think that, you know, maybe there is a certain thing that they could do with it, but, you know, I would love to sort of see maybe just you know, a slight change with it, but nothing that's too ridiculous, because otherwise it's going to be just too strong. But, you know, he's very, very you know, useful in regards to what he can do. As you can see, 25 seconds of her scan, I'm able to pretty much tell everyone exactly where they're at, what's happening and things like that. I can tell them that there are more than 1 team around, so at least we know that we're not going to just run out there, try and loot some boxes and then be shot to pieces. So going back to Beast of the Hunt, I know that there has been talk about, you know, that people would like to see it maybe slightly changed, extended, where I think one video I saw was extended up to 10 seconds per knockdown. Personally, I guess, I mean, although it in theory does sound really nice, there is a sort of an element that goes, well, maybe that would just be a little too ridiculous. I mean, look, you know, at the end of the day, yes, Bloodhound is one of my characters that I use a lot along with Mirage, but at the end of the day, I do not want any legend in this game to be just so ridiculous that they just become the obvious choice. And there is a part of me that wonders about like legends like Rampart that's coming out in Season 6. I'm going to do a video about that at some point, just talking about it. But as you can see, I mean, Beast of the Hunt, you kind of see it all in red, you can see the footprints, you can see what's going on. Unfortunately, well, like I said, I mean, I nearly downed someone there, but, you know, unfortunately, it's the caustic gas. You can't even see caustic gas that well, and that's a little bit of a nightmare. So, you know, just things like that, you know, I'd love it if you could just see visibility was just a little better in certain instances, maybe, just as a kind of like a little tweak, like a more a quality of life, but, you know, not actually buff him in any other way. I think he's probably, like, really up there. I think at the moment, as well as it stands, believe usage last time I checked, he was the 4th most used legend, and that was behind Wraith, Pathfinder, and Lifeline, which Lifeline, considering her changes, is not surprising. Now, we do go on to win this ranked game eventually, although it is a bit of a nightmare. I didn't have the best ranked game ever, and I end up getting killed, unfortunately, but luckily I was able to give enough intel to my friends to at least give them enough information to be able to make sure of what was going on. So, you know, Bloodhound, even if you don't really do successfully, you would find his benefit. I mean, okay, like for example, a great thing is his scan in ranked. If you scan someone and then they get killed by either you or somebody else, you get an assist for it, which is instant points. So it's really not that hard to push Bloodhound if you're really trying. I mean, naturally, you're going to want to maybe, you know, see how it happens and things. Now, unfortunately, this is in the ranked game, this is where it went wrong. I pushed by myself, which is a really bad idea. I had no shield cells because, of course, when I got revived, I didn't really have a lot. And unfortunately, the storm kind of really just does me in because I can't get into the building to get to my friends, and they've got the height position. So, as you can kind of see there, one of the things as well is the slower animation because I decide to jump out there and try scanning at some point. And, of course, this animation is a little slower. That's probably one of the changes that they made, that they increased the range up to 4 tiles from 3, but then they slowed the actual animation side of things, which is, you know, one of those things that you have to deal with. It's not the end of the world, and I would take that every single time over, of course, the way it is. But yeah, so I mean, these are my thoughts with Bloodhound. I think he's a solid character. I think he's very, very viable in all modes. I think he's got a lot of potentials. I don't think too much needs to be changed apart from quality of life aspects, and I think he is really, really good to push in ranked especially, or to play in casual. You know, he is actually a lot of fun. I mean, Beast of the Hunt is one of the most fun things, and it's very satisfying when you do down someone. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, found it fun and informative and enjoyable. If you did, a like would really help me out, and if you did want to subscribe for future content, I'm on 54 subscribers as it stands, and I'm just continuing to try and grow. It would be amazing if there was any more future support. That would be great. But always, never stop moving, never stop believing, and stay Apex. That is it for me for this particular video. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers now, bye.